Is Sigma 72-200 2.8 Sport still relevant in 2021, especially on the Sony APS-C mirrorless or Blackmagic 6K? Why Sigma? Why 70-200? The only focal length I miss at the moment is 70-200. I got Tamron already, 70-200 2.8 G2 for EF mount, but I sold it together with my Canon DSLR. It was really nice lens, but I couldn't adapt it to Sony because it won't work with MC11 for video. Sigma limits MC11 only to work with Sigma lenses, so I would like to have 70-200 for my Sony mirrorless, and since it is APS-C, I guess f4 is not enough. You can get away with f4 if you got full frame body, but if you got APS-C body, I'd say you need F2.8. So why you need 70-200? It is really good for shooting subjects which are quite far away from you. So if you cannot get quite close to your subject, it is a really nice lens to use. For example, sports, both indoors and outdoors, cars, motorcycles, especially for the panning shots. So if you want to exaggerate the movement of the car or the motorcycle, or the people riding horses, people running and stuff like that, you can use this lens, and it's perfect focal length for the panning shots. For panning shots, you're rather using lower values of the shutter speed because you want to create this movement, but then it is nice to have image stabilization. It is also quite useful for shooting small kids which are running all around. So if I want 70-200 f2.8, what are my options? One option is this Sigma, another option is Sony G Master, and there is also Tamron 70-180mm. So I'd say there are three options at the moment, and there are rumors that Sigma is working on a Sony E version of 70-200, and I've also heard that this lens is going to have image stabilization and be designed for mirrorless, so it should be smaller, but it's a rumor for more than 1.5 years. So between those three options, Sony G Master, it is really pricey. Although it is native lens for E-mount, it is more than 3,000 bucks in Poland. And also some people report that it got problems with autofocus. So for some reason it got either front or back focus. For that price, the lens with bad autofocus, I'd say, is no go. Then you got a Tamron, and Tamron is a really nice option because it's only 810 grams, but it lacks image stabilization, and I'd say Sony IBIS is not very good. So if you rely only on IBIS, you might be surprised, especially for the scenarios with low light, so like sports, indoors. And then this Sigma got in-body image stabilization. The image is really sharp, the quality of the image is really good, and image stabilization is really impressive, although it is almost 2 kilos, so it looks kind of ridiculous on the Sony APS-C body. And also you have to adopt it with Sigma MC11, which makes the lens even bigger and clunkier and heavier. So I was about to buy this Sigma, although got a brilliant idea to rent the lens for one day to check if it works with my A6600 and Blackmagic 6K, because that's why I even considering EF lens, because I also got Blackmagic 6K, so I could use this lens for both. Also, good pro of this Sigma is that all controls are as physical switches. You can control autofocus, image stabilization, range of the autofocus, plus you got two custom settings, and you got this button you can program in the body, so it is quite useful. So you can use it as a custom button, and this is how it looks like on the Sony A6600. Kind of ridiculous because you also got MC11, so it is even longer than on a DSLR. So I got this great idea to rent the lens for one day, and I'm glad I did, because probably I won't be happy if I buy it. So I got only 24 hours to check it. So first thing I did, I took it to the basketball game and checked how it works for shooting sports. So a part of it being very heavy, I was able to shoot for 40 minutes without a problem. But the main problem probably was that indoor sports are kind of a low light scenario. If I shoot wide open and I wanted to freeze the action, so I was shooting like 1/200 of the second or 1/250, then the ISO was in the range between 5000 to 6400, which was not acceptable with the Sony APS-C. So there was really heavy noise in the picture. Although I could get away with 100 of the second, maybe 1/125, but it depends on the action. And if I got to ISO 2000 or less, then the noise was kind of acceptable. I guess I could remove the noise in post, but anything above 5000 was terrible. So it seems for such scenario, full frame is better, and full frame with fast lens, so 2.8. Another thing was that the focal length was kind of too long. So then I switched to Sigma 56 1.4, and it was better because the lens was faster and the focal length was more suited for the APS-C body. So maybe Sigma 50 to 100 is better option, but 50 to 100 lacks image stabilization, so it is a trade-off. Anyway, it was not the best combo to have A6600 and 70 to 200 2.8 for shooting sports indoors. So in this scenario, it was barely keeping up. Although autofocus was quite nice, I've been shooting the serial mode with high setting, and most of the shots were in focus, but later I checked how the focus works if someone is running or someone is swinging on the swing, and whenever the subject was moving towards the camera, the autofocus was not able to keep up with the moving subject. So it is also a bummer and a con for this lens. So I guess the motor is not able to keep up with the really fast autofocus of Sony bodies, or might be the case that this is due to the lens being adopted via MC11. Hard to say, but for really fast moving objects towards the camera, you would miss a lot of shots. So I also took a lens for a quick spin to shoot something random. Then I shot several panning shots, but during this it got to me that the lens is really heavy. So it is more than 2 kilos with the body, like 2.3 kilos. So it was wearing my hands really quick, and I still feel some kind of the pain in my biceps. I'd say this lens is too heavy. Probably the only person who can shoot with this lens for longer than 1 hour is Jared Polin, or maybe Casey from Camera Conspiracies with his monkey strand. But after an hour, I was like, duck it, I quit. So I also quickly tested the lens with Blackmagic 6K. I shot some night footage. I was kind of impressed, although the image stabilization got this dragging effect because it seems it is mostly suited for the shooting photos. So whenever you pan or move the lens, then the stabilization creates this dragging effect. So the frame is moving back and forth like that. So it is not very pleasing. And another thing is that Blackmagic with monitor and this lens is more than 5 kilos. So my hands were really tired after like 5 minutes of shooting. Might be the case, it's really nice combo for the shoulder rig, but I do not have shoulder rig, so it was really annoying. Then next day I shot something for 5 minutes and I said like, okay, I'm not Gerald, I'm done. And whenever I got the thought of shooting something, either photos or videos, I was like, oh no, this thing is too heavy. So I'd say it is not an option for me, even though I could use this lens on both Sony and Blackmagic. It is like not good for either of them, so I guess I would end up waiting for Sigma for Sony E-mount, or maybe try Tamron 70 180 and see if lack of image stabilization is a deal breaker for me. And for Blackmagic, I guess f4 lens is enough, so I would check some used old lenses with EF mount, and might be the case that image stabilization is not needed, that the good video tripod is a better option for such a long lens. So I guess I would end up having two cheaper options than one Sigma. So I'm sending it back and I'm still without 70-200, but I would investigate on the options. It seems that Sigma is no-go in 2021. It's too heavy and too clunky, and I guess there are better options, or maybe there would be a better option from Sigma for Sony E-mount. I almost bought some time ago Canon R5 with their 70-200 because Canon's new RF 70-200 is just tiny and really small and lightweight. So at the moment I think it's the best option on the market, but since I do not have Canon camera, that's no option for me, and also there is no way to adopt RF lens to Blackmagic 6K, so it is also a bummer. So I guess that's it. Cheers, mate.